starts in 1999 when I was writing for a magazine after I did my undergraduate, and my undergraduate thesis was on technology and the social, political, and ecological implications of technology. From my studies was that, a good idea is not enough. In order to make the translation from workshop to world, you really need people to kind of fight for it and to facilitate the socio-ecological and sociological factors. So there's a whole bunch of things: economics, culture, contacts, rhetoric, argument. So when I was at York, we were on strike, and it was a really long strike, actually, longest strike in the history of Canadian universities. And I read Gustavo Esteva's book, Grassroots Postmodernism, and got really inspired by it, because basically Gustavo has an idea of what we don't need are more critiques of how the system doesn't work. We need more examples of the alternatives that people can look to for examples, practical examples, but also as a sign of hope. So I started working with Gustavo because I really liked his idea of not just being a reactionist or a critic or an intellectual or an academic, but really being incarnating the things that I wanted to see. Gustavo is a deprofessionalized intellectual and nomadic storyteller, and he's internationally recognized for this. He's spoken all over the world. He's been published in about 30 different languages. In Mexico, he's quite a well-known commentator. When I went down to Oaxaca, we got together with a bunch of different friends, coffee growers, coffee cooperatives, bread bakers and stuff like that, and what ended up happening was they said, okay, well, we need something to roast coffee with in the communities, and these gas roasters are really expensive. So we built the coffee roaster, and it took a long time to get it right, but we finally got it right with solar tech, just mirrors and roasters, and into a couple problems. One, it was slower than gas roasting. Two, it was dependent upon the sunlight. So for someone who wanted to basically make a lot of money at it, and run it, it had limitations. And the communities, they have their traditional way of roasting it, so they weren't using vast amounts of it, so they didn't necessarily leap at it. And three, coffee is best eaten fresh, roasted and then
green beans roasted
and then drank within less than a week of the time that they're roasted. So during the process of the coffee experimentation and realizations, I had made a lot of different friends. So it wasn't even really about the technology. It turned out to be more about the friendships and the learning. And the technology became less the ends and more the means. And the means and the ends became kind of the same, which was learning about energy, learning about culture, and cultivating friendships. Research that wasn't about using people and data, but about living as learning. And that was something that was a common theme in the conversations I would have. And one of the guys that I became really close friends with, Adrian, who was a Zapotec farmer, he had a mother, a 70-year-old Zapotec healer. But she also had a lot of different things that she did. And around Christmas every year, she would make a special Oaxacan chocolate with white cacao, almonds, cinnamon, and cacao. So when we made the first chocolate, it was I didn't know what to expect, because I thought it would come out tasting like Hershey's.
Right.
And it didn't. But I came home that Christmas, I think it was 2003, and I brought the chocolate with me, and no one really even liked it.
No?
But I loved making it, and when I went back to Oaxaca in January, because I had finished my master's at this point, and I was just going back because I really enjoyed my friendships there. So it was I realized it was no longer about the research, it was about I would be a fool not to continue learning and living with these people from whom I'd learned so much and enjoyed so much. And it was that second visit that I kind of got into chocolate. And then the third visit, I came back and it was like 8 months after the initial thing, and we were still working on the solar project because I wanted to get some closure on it, right? I didn't want to just kind of like let everything stop because I had, you know, failed. You know, it was like I learned enough about technology and studies to know that failure is 9/10 has to do with like saying I failed, right? It's like determination can overcome incompetence if you're determined, no matter how, you know. So like I kept on working on it, and we were kind of like leaders, not but the leader in the chocolate making, right? And the solar project. And then what happened was we started having a lot of fun making chocolate. So the whole solar roasting finally started to make a difference because that's the lineup. Because people could eat something that was like a product of it. The chocolate became what we call the delicious, nutritious imitation. So you can support the project by like funding, which I have found to be very painful and frustrating. You could support the project by buying the chocolate, or you could support the project by buying the chocolate, learning about the story, and sharing the story with other people. And then it became a way to, that was the first step. And then the next step was, you know, okay, well, at a certain point, realizing that I couldn't live in Mexico for the rest of my life because of the feeling of community that I had here, in my family and all that kind of stuff. So, decided to start coming home, and that's when I met Graham at that stage, because he was also down in Oaxaca, and he was working in a different part of the same sector. So it was civil society and it was research, but he was working with productive systems and stuff like that, and together we kind of got together and rather than just kind of cutting our hairs coming home and getting a real job, we decided that there was a lot that we'd been inspired by in Mexico, in Oaxaca in particular, and that yes, we were Canadians, and yes, we were Ontarians from Southern Ontario, but that we wanted to find a way to kind of link our lives and the things we'd learned in our work there with where we were going to go back home to. And that's how Chocosol Toronto began.